How good will the Raptors be at three-point shooting? What if Immanuel Quickley is healthy? What if Brandon Ingram shoots 8 threes a game? What if Scotty shoots less? That's all coming up on today's Locked On Raptors.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's your favorite part of the day. Thanks for making Locked On Raptors your first listen every day. I'm Vivek Jacob. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors for 8 seasons across several outlets. You can follow Locked On Raptors on X, Instagram, and YouTube, and be sure to check out the Locked On Raptors Discord, where you can talk all things basketball, but especially the Raptors. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. It is Monday, September the 15th. I'm going solo and I am back. I'm covering for Sean for the week, so you're stuck with me. Hopefully, I can give you some good topics to chat about as we get through this week here. And to begin with, I am diving into the Raptors as a three-point shooting team for the 2025-26 season. We are going to look at the team's three-point frequency, what we should expect there, the team's three-point accuracy, and lastly, we will dive into the rest of the league, see where they're standing, and evaluate just how much of a better three-point shooting team we should expect this Raptors team to be. So to start off with, looking at just the frequency, the Raptors attempted 34 threes per game last season. That was 28th in the league. They were last in the East in that category. Only the Nuggets and the Clippers attempted fewer threes. And Boston led the league with 48 attempts per game last season. Now, I don't think anyone is going to be rivaling that number this upcoming season. Boston obviously just has a very specific way of playing. They're missing, obviously, a lot of personnel going into this upcoming season relative to last season. Obviously, Holiday out, Porzingis out, Horford out, and Jason Tatum with the injury. So I don't think they will be repeating the 48 threes a game. I think they'll stick to their system, and so they'll still get a decent amount of threes up, but I would be very surprised if we saw 48 again. Just to give you an idea, Golden State finished second, and they attempted 42 threes a game. So maybe we'll see a number closer to that. League average for the three-point shooting last season was around 38 threes per game. So when you think about the Raptors being at 34, I'm not saying, hey, what's the path to 42 and like competing potentially with Golden State for the most threes in the league. I'm saying, hey, can this team get up to league average? Baby steps, right? Let's work our way there first. And so when I look at that, it's about getting 4 more threes up per game. If you look at it across the season in terms of total attempts, last year the Raptors attempted 2,786 threes, so about 2,800. The league average in terms of total attempts over 82 games was around 3,100. So you're looking at, hey, is there a path to the Raptors attempting around 300 more threes over 82 games? And I think that's where we can get into the specifics of it. And so who is going to help get that number up? First and foremost, I think we have to start with Immanuel Quickley. This is someone who is the Raptors' best three-point shooter. I think he is someone that the first thing will be, hey, can he play enough games? And if you look at the fact that he played 33 games last season, which was completely abnormal relative to the rest of his career, first 4 seasons in the league, 64 games, 78 games, 81 games, 68 games. So I say, let's double that, right? Let's double last season's 33 games and say, hey, well, what if he plays in 66 games? And then, I think the attempts, I would like to see it up. He averages 7 3-point attempts per game as a Raptor. I would like to see that getting up to 9, maybe even 10 attempts per game. Uh, we'll see if there's enough touches for that to happen. But let's say even if it's 7, then if you're doubling the number of games he's playing, you're doubling the number of attempts. And so he attempted 225 threes last season. So now you're saying let's push that up to 450, right? And I think that's a big jump. We talked about, hey, can the Raptors get 300 more threes? So step one, hey, let's see Immanuel Quickley play enough games where he's getting up another 200 plus threes. And then step 2, Brandon Ingram shooting threes. So in effect, you're looking at him coming into the starting lineup for Grady Dick. So now you have increased 3-point depth on the bench. We'll see if Ingram can get up enough threes in the starting lineup. And I think there's enough reason to believe that if you look at his career with New Orleans, that he can get up 6 threes per game. And the question mark here, it's obviously a bigger question mark than Immanuel Quickley. He has had his injury issues. I do think there may be a bit overblown compared to what the general consensus seems to be on his health. I don't think he's as injury prone as some of the stats suggest. I think, there's been the stat thrown out about how, he hasn't played 65 games in 6-7 season. And I think that is a bit skewed just because he actually played a good amount of games in shortened seasons during the COVID period. And so he only missed a few games there, but because you had a shortened season, he didn't get up to that 65 mark. And so I think that's where things get a little bit skewed. So I do think he's healthier than people believe. And in terms of the trade effect, you've got rid of Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown, who combined to attempt 83 pointers last season. Ingram for sure is going to get up way more than that as long as he's out on the court. I am tentatively, and this might surprise a few people, I am tentatively penciling Brandon Ingram in to attempt 353 pointers next season. I do think that is something that is very accomplishable for him if he's out on the court often enough. He has attempted over 353s twice in his career. That was 2019-20 and 2020-21. He only played in 18 games this past season, but he definitely would have been on course to attempt that many again. 23-24, he played 64 games and he attempted 242 threes. So relative to that, you might say, hey, 350 is a little high. But for me, when I'm factoring what the Raptors offense is going to require of him, and I think the fact that they're probably going to push him to be more of an analytics player, they'll still want him to be able to take his comfort shots in the mid-range to just establish his rhythm and things like that. And especially, late in the shot clock, he'll just get to his go-to spot. But I do think there's going to be one more threes attempted, especially beyond the arc, above the break. And then I think he is going to drive all the way to the basket as opposed to taking mid-range jumpers and see if he can kick out, have that dribble penetration effect where he's creating looks for others. So focusing specifically on Brandon Ingram, I am penciling him in for 353s attempted this upcoming season. Now, I have projected this increase for these two players. That doesn't mean you just tack that on and say, okay, well, hey, that's like 500 threes that you're throwing on the board. The Raptors are going to beat that average mark of 3,100 threes, no problem. No, it also means we have to scale back Grady Dick's attempts because I think it'll be amazing to see if he can get up as many threes as he did last season, but he's not going to play 30 minutes a game. this upcoming season. So there is going to be that negative effect on his 3-point volume. Ochai Agbaji is probably not going to get as many minutes as he did last season. So you expect those 3-point attempts to come down. Then, I think someone like Jamal Shed, if Immanuel Quickley is healthy, I think he's going to be playing less too. So I think that's where you have to look at the balance of it all. And I think another couple of important players to touch on, Scotty Barnes. If you've got this improved 3-point depth across the roster, if you've got him playing his most ideal role, I think last year, especially, through the middle course of the season, I think we saw threes that you probably don't expect to see him take this season. And so, he attempted 4.3 a game last season, 5 per game the season before. I wouldn't be surprised if it ticked below the 4 mark this season. And RJ Barrett, when he had his super efficient season with the Raptors, he was attempting 4 threes a game. Last season, obviously increased usage and increased freedom of role. He attempted 5 a game. So both those players, again, I'm expecting a slight downtick. And so this is where you strike that balance, right? Okay, if you've got Ingram taking more threes, you've got Quickley taking more threes, who's taking less? And so, I won't be surprised if on the whole, Ochai, Jamal Shed, obviously Jamison Battle, Jacoby Walter, if their attempts are slightly lower than what we saw last season, just because the rotation minutes aren't going to be there. I think at the end of the day, that starting 5 is getting paid a lot of money. I think that starting 5 is going to play a lot of minutes. So there is going to be a trickle-down effect of that. Colin Murray-Boyles and Sandro Mamukelashvili, by default, their attempts will be up. They're new to the team. So I think on the whole, if I look at the net positive of having Quickley and Ingram get those threes up and factor in the decreased attempts of the rest, I still feel the Raptors are in a good place to get to the league average of around 3,100 attempts on the season. And I think that's what you want to strive for. And I think, again, going back to that point, it's not just about saying, hey, we want to take more threes. It's about having players who can create more dribble penetration and kick out and create more threes. And so I think the Raptors have that as well. And that's where, Darko is going to have to stagger the lineups. He's going to have a couple of starters out there in the secondary lineups as much as possible. And that's where you're creating better looks. And that's where you're able to consistently get those attempts up. And you should be able to meet that requirement of getting your threes up from 34 a game last season to hopefully 38 this season. If they could get it up to 40, even better. But right now, let's set that goal at 38. Let's try to get to league average. And I think when you look at what the Raptors have in terms of personnel, they should be able to get there. Coming up on the other side, we're going to focus on the 3-point accuracy. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff and a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And we are back at it, going into a 3-point accuracy for the Raptors. Last season, the Raptors finished 23rd in accuracy. They shot 34.8% beyond the arc. The Milwaukee Bucks were number 1, 38.7%, so nearly 39%. The Cavs were second, 38.3%. League average was about 36.5%. So if you look at it, the Raptors were about 1.5% off of league average. And this is, again, it really comes down to what those two guys are going to give you. Immanuel Quickley, you would expect him to shoot around 38%, maybe 39. We've seen him shoot 39 with the Raptors. So if he can do that, that'd be great. Ingram is at 36.5% for his career. And so I think doing this exercise and examining the Raptors as a 3-point shooting team, and it's like, hey, okay, Grady Dick, Ochai, Jacoby Walter, we'll see how many minutes Sandro gets. Like, these are going to be depth 3-point pieces, but in terms of having a significant difference, it's really, in my eyes, going to come down to what Quickley and Ingram give you at the 3-point line. That is something that has become even more clear as I kind of broke down the team's specifics. And, looking at those specifics, the Raptors shot 37.9% on corner threes. They were 21st in the league in that. They were 34.3% on non-corner threes. And so, breaking it down further, they were dead last in non-corner three attempts. And I think this is where they need the jump from Quickley and Ingram, because those are the two guys who are most likely to take above the break threes. And so if you're looking to up that non-corner three rate, that's where Quickley and Ingram are going to matter the most. When you think about why the Raptors were dead last in 3-point attempts from above the break last season, it's simple enough, right? Like, okay, Quickley's not playing much. And then you look at the rest of the roster, it's who really has that ability to pull up in transition. We saw Grady do it some, but beyond that, who is really doing it? And so I think that's where it gets really difficult. And that ability to even just catch and shoot from above the break, the Raptors don't really have players on their roster who can do that. So it's putting a lot in the hands of Quickley and Ingram again. And then we have to see just how much usage the Raptors will be able to get, Darko will be able to get out of Grady Dick off the bench. And so if he can just come in, be a gunslinger, be that 6-man type of player, and the Raptors are prioritizing getting him looks from beyond the arc, and obviously we know the type of attention that he commands, but if he's out there on the floor with a couple of starters and quality units that are able to that forces opponents to sort of pick their poison, then that's where he can get his attempts up. Like, again, attempted 6 threes a game last season, playing 30 minutes a game. Is there a path to him playing 20 minutes a game and still getting 6 threes up a game? I think that would be significant. I think that's kind of an X factor in all of this. So if we're saying Ingram and Quickley are the two main guys, what is Grady's path to playing fewer minutes but really having that volume up? And we know, again, I think I don't want to say this is part of the challenge, because this is just, it's a good thing that he is this type of player. I'd say part of the equation is that Grady Dick isn't someone who's just a shooter, right? Like, if you close out on him, he is going to dribble inside the arc and take maybe a pull up. He is going to try and take it all the way to the rack. And so those are aspects of it that are going to matter as well. So I think Grady is kind of the X factor in this. Obviously, you'll have Ochai and Jacoby and Sandro like around the edges, I think, just based on the anticipated playing time. But I think in terms of accuracy, I think this is where you need him to fire. And if he's firing, if Quickley's firing, and you're getting those above the break threes from these three guys, then you can be in a really good place, because now that's really opening up the floor and really opening up the offense for other players, someone like Scotty, to really be in attack mode, right? Like, now defenses have to make really, really tough decisions. To finish up, let's look at how it's all lining up across the league and where the Raptors could potentially stack up. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in and that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And we are back ready to wrap it up. And so, kind of breaking down all these numbers, breaking down the Raptors as a 3-point shooting team. I stacked them up in the East. I stacked them up in the West. Who are the teams I expect to be better than the Raptors in the East as a 3-point shooting team? You have to give the Cleveland Cavaliers their respect. They were the best 3-point shooting team in the league for most of the season. Kind of tailed off after the All-Star break a bit. I thought some of that had to do with, kind of just the way they ran away with the East and then just kind of coasting to the finish line. The New York Knicks are an interesting team because they were right next to the Raptors in terms of 3-point attempts. And so that's a team where theoretically you'd look at it and say, oh, okay, maybe, they were right there with the Raptors last season. Why can't the Raptors attempt more threes than them this season? I think the big factor here is Mike Brown. Bringing him in as the head coach, I think he's going to have that team attempting a lot more threes. And so when you consider the personnel that they have, the fact that they have added 3-point shooting to the mix with that team, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, getting threes up, I think is going to be a big factor in this category for them. And the spacing that they have in general, I think Mike Brown is going to take full advantage of that and have this team really get those threes up. I think the Atlanta Hawks are in for a big bump in their 3-point attempts. They were kind of closer to league average last season, but I think in terms of the attempts, they're going to go way, way up. They've added Porzingis to the mix. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker's going to get his threes up. I think Luke Kennard is going to get his threes up. So I think that's a team to watch out for in terms of having, a bit of a spike when it comes to the 3-point attempts. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think this is a team that, so they were number 1 in 3-point percentage last season, but they did not get up a lot of threes. I think this season we might see the inverse. I think this is a team that, by default of not having upper tier talent beyond Giannis, obviously Miles Turner is in the mix now, but I think beyond Giannis, when you look at the options, it's going to take a lot of shot creation from Giannis and a lot of, drive and kick. So I think this is a team that is going to adjust their offense in that way and say, hey, we are going to take a lot of threes to maximize, these players who, some are kind of borderline rotation players. Some are, on the fringes of the NBA. So I feel like in order to maximize that, it's like and maximize who those players are, maximize the offense. It's just going to be, hey, Giannis either dunks or gets to the free throw line, or everybody else is just getting up as many threes as possible. Kevin Porter Jr. might give them, some dribble penetration as well. But beyond that, it really is going to be about the 3-point shooting. Shout out to Gary Trent Jr. So I think we're going to see the inverse, where this team could attempt a lot of threes, but just not make it at a super high clip. So now the Boston Celtics, this is a team that attempted 48 threes, led the league by a long way last season. I still think they've got some decent 3-point shooting options on this team. So it's not quite what it used to be, where they could build up that huge advantage. Attempt leading the league in attempts by 6 over the second place team is really, really significant. But when you look at the pieces that they have going into this season, they still have Peyton Pritchard, they still have Derek White, they still have Jaylen Brown. Sam Hauser is going to get a more opportunity. Anthony Simons is going to get threes up. Obviously, our man Chris Boucher is going to get some looks from beyond the arc. So I think they still have enough to potentially attempt more than the Raptors. But again, I could see them being a team that comes down a long way from number one, comes down in terms of percentage. But because of the system, the way that Missoula will probably want them to play, they'll still probably get a healthy number of threes up. So those are the main teams that I expect to be better than the Raptors in terms of 3-point attempts in the East. Then there's a couple of teams that I will say it's going to be maybe neck and neck. I could see the Orlando Magic and the Indiana Pacers, and it being kind of neck and neck. With them, I feel like obviously the Bane edition is big, but we'll just have to see Banchero and Wagner expand as 3-point shooters. We haven't necessarily seen the efficiency. And so I think that is going to be an interesting aspect when you look at, hey, if you were to just compare team to team, will Bane and Quickley kind of neutralize each other? And then what does it look like the rest of the way across the roster? Maybe you say the Raptors have a bit better 3-point shooting depth because, beyond that, you'd say Jalen Suggs will get up his threes. You say that, Banchero and Wagner will get up a decent amount, but it comes down to the efficiency. So I think that's where I think those two teams could be neck and neck. I think the Pacers are actually in for a drop-off. I think it'd be hard not to expect a drop-off when you're losing Halliburton's not only his ability to shoot the ball and the amount of threes that he's getting up a game, his ability to penetrate, create shots for others, his playmaking. So I think that's a team that could suffer in terms of its 3-point attempts. And then we'll see how that affects their whole identity as an offense. So I think that's another team that it'll be interesting to see. Hey, maybe the Raptors can actually get up more threes than these teams that, maybe going in on the surface, you might not think that way. The Detroit Pistons, that's another team that I feel like on the surface, because of what they accomplished last season, people are going to look at them and say, of course, they'll be better than the Raptors as a 3-point shooting team. Why not? What's there to suggest that they won't be? Well, for me, the big thing when I was digging in on the numbers here is when I looked at the Detroit Pistons, they got up about 2,900 threes last season. And when I dove into that, of the 2,900 threes that they attempted, a big chunk of them, 40% of them were by Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. So that's a big deal in my eyes. So they brought in Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. They've had Dennis Schroeder go out as well. Jaden Ivey's going to step in for him. But, can Robinson and LeVert replicate what Hardaway and Beasley did? I don't think so. I don't think Robinson is going to get enough minutes to do so, even though we recognize him as a really good 3-point shooter. And I don't think that that's LeVert's nature. He's not a 3-point shooter. He's someone that kind of, likes to have the ball in his hands and create his own shot in the mid range. Maybe you'll see some runners get all the way to the basket, but he's not a big time 3-point shooter. So I think the Pistons are actually a team that are gonna miss out quite a bit, and they might miss the mark. And you think about the way that team plays, if they don't have the floor spacing that they did last season. Again, this is why I also kind of have them as a team that might slide down a little bit or even stagnate, or at least not stagnate, and to the point where the Raptors can catch them. So I think that's where it gets interesting. The Miami Heat, that's a team where I think on the surface you maybe give them the edge, and they're a team that could end up being a better 3-point shooting team than the Raptors. You look at Tyler Herro, you look at Norman Powell in the mix, and then Andrew Wiggins is kind of an X factor in this. We don't know what's going to happen with him. We've seen him in trade rumors a whole bunch. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but they have the pieces to be a better 3-point shooting team than the Raptors. But I do feel like if I were to look at it right now, I'd give Toronto the edge. So in terms of the East, for now, I've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams better than them. And then in the West, I'm not going to go into the details, but on the whole, I've only got the Raptors being better than about 6 of the teams. So when I break it down, I could see the Raptors finishing, or I would expect the Raptors to finish somewhere between 14 and 16 in 3-point attempts, which obviously after finishing 28th in attempts last season would be a significant improvement. Is there, would you say doubling Quickley's games and the addition of Ingram is enough to do that? Well, maybe not, but then you're also factoring the depth that brings in terms of the 3-point shooting to the bench. And so I think that's where the Raptors could surprise people with the number of threes they attempt per game next season. I think that Darko is going to make it a priority, and really, having that strong drive and kick game, being more analytics friendly in terms of the shot spectrum. And yeah, if Quickley and Ingram are there, I expect this team to be closer to league average in terms of attempts. Accuracy, that's going to be a bigger question mark. Process-wise, we could see good things and like getting the attempts up and all of that. But in terms of actually making the shot, I think that's where moving up from 23rd, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors still finished in the late teens and somewhere in the 16 to 19 range. Maybe they still finish 20th or 21st, but I think I'm not anticipating as much of an improvement in the 3-point shooting accuracy as I am in the attempts. And I'm curious to see what the rest of you think of that. So having broken it all down, I know this was a bit of a nerdy podcast and a lot of numbers in there. Hopefully it wasn't too much. Hopefully you were able to digest it all. And if you want to carry on the discussion, head on over to the Locked On Raptors Discord. The link is in the description. And before we wrap up here, the Locked On NBA Top 100 is here. Voted on by the NBA hosts of the Locked On Podcast Network, our Top 100 was formed by experts that cover these teams and players every day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.